And I want to compliment them because I think if a Republican Speaker of the House were doing this to try to affect the trial in the Senate, I hope I would have the courage of my convictions to join the five to say that they should send it over.
California Governor Gavin Newsom wants to fight the high cost of prescription drugs by letting the state get into the generic drug business.
The cost of health care is just too damn high. That's a quote from Governor Newsom about his idea, more of which he'll discuss when he announces his new state budget on Friday. The idea would be for the state to contract with a few drug makers to manufacture prescription drugs for the state that would be sold then under the state's own label. The trick's going to be to get drug makers on board, but he believes if he can, it would lower prescription drug costs for Californians and force all drug manufacturers to lower prices.
Correspondent Jim Roop. Homelessness in America rose again in 2019.
For years, Hawaii led the nation in homelessness when looking at the number of homeless people per 10,000 residents. But now New York has surpassed Hawaii and California when it comes to homeless people per capita, although California still has the largest overall homeless population. The 2019 annual homeless assessment report to Congress from HUD found that on a single night last year, nearly half of all people experiencing homelessness in the country were in 3 states, California, New York, and Florida. More than 567,000 people were classified as homeless in 2019.
Correspondent Steve Kastenbaum. Yesterday's announcement that Britain's Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Harry and Meghan, were stepping back from royal duties has Buckingham Palace scrambling. Correspondent Max Foster says one insider told him that what the tabloids are calling Megxit poses an unprecedented dilemma for the British royals.
Will they do it? Will they not do it? They're showing that they defy most rules within the household. If they don't budge, they're either going to have to leave the royal family or they're going to have to be kicked out. Extraordinary.
Checking your money this hour, the Dow up 203 points, the S&P 500 up 20, the NASDAQ up 68. WMAL traffic and weather next.
Set up your Amazon Echo to hear Larry O'Connor weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
We need to do that, and I'm all for that.
For one-time setup, say, Alexa, enable WMAL skill. Then to listen, just say, Alexa, open WMAL. Details at WMAL.com.
Do you want to learn to speak a new language but don't have enough time? Then you need to try Babbel, the language learning app that you can try for free right now at Babbel.com. Babbel's lessons are just 15 minutes or less, and you can go at your own pace. You'll be amazed at how easy Babbel makes it. Start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Just download the Babbel app or go to Babbel.com now. That's Babbel.com.
Save up to 40% at the Sun and Ski Sports Peak Season Sale. Save on skis, snowboards, equipment, apparel, and more. Get ready for whatever your winter adventures may be. Shop now at the Gaithersburg, Chantilly, and Seven Corners locations.
WMAL traffic and weather. Here's Ed Rodriguez in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Stacy, you good?
I am. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So just a reminder, you'll go to about 320 and you'll throw directly to traffic.
Got it. I've updated my weather.
Cloudy tonight, low 33.
David Reaboi's here too.
Tomorrow, high 56. It's 37 in Beltsville, 38 right now at Reagan National. I'm Maria Leaf on Washington's Mall, WMAL.
Now, the Larry O'Connor Show.
Welcome, Stacy Washington. I'm in for Larry O'Connor here on WMAL. You can find out more about me at StacyOnTheRight.com. Today is National Law Enforcement Day, and my father is retired law enforcement, so big ups to him. He might be, tooling around in his retirement days now that he's retired, just chilling out in the D.C. metro area. I'm sure he's out and about, so Dad, love you. Hope you're enjoying yourself. And I hope all of you who are in law enforcement understand how much we appreciate you. 1 million law enforcement officers or thereabouts in our entire country, protecting and serving over 1 million interactions with us, the citizens of this country, on a yearly basis. And I have to say, every single time I have had to dial 911 or had an EMT out to our house, because my husband one time almost sawed his finger off when, anyway, that's another story for another day. We've always experienced the utmost in professionalism and help from law enforcement. So I just say to you, if you're one of those people who's afraid of law enforcement, put that aside and consider them to be the same as you, because that's what they are. They're citizens who've chosen to serve us. And we just want to tip our hats to you today and say thank you so much for everything that you're doing. We appreciate you. And if you feel so led, shake the hand of a police officer today while you're out. Let them know we're thinking about them and we're praying for them and hoping that every night they come home whole, safe, healthy, and sound to their family members and loved ones after serving us in the public every single day. So today on the show, here on Larry O'Connor on WMAL, which I'm still so super pumped. I'm like a kid bouncing around waiting for I don't know, Halloween candy or something, to be filling in again. So we're going to have a fantastic day. Our rundown includes David Reaboi, Bob Woodson, David Hersani. And right now, I want to welcome a friend of mine. I've interviewed him many times before, and I always love to get his expertise. Today is no different. David Reaboi, National Security and Political Warfare Consultant at the Security Studies Group. David, thank you for taking time out for us today.
It's my pleasure. I want to quickly shout out to your dad and to everybody in law enforcement. That was a wonderful message, and it was really important. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I think a lot of what we do, you know how it is. You're busy. You get up in the morning and you start your day and you launch off. And all of us really, we take for granted a lot of the benefits and blessings that we have here as Americans. And one of them is that we have the ability to manage a population of 325 million people with such a relatively small police force. And that's because we have a lot of law and order that's kind of baked into the cake with the liberty and the constitutional rights and all of that we have. But it is a dangerous world out there for police officers, and we got to call out good stuff when we see it. And I think they deserve a little, just a tipping of the hat today. It'd be great. And also maybe you're one of those people who drops off snacks. Go for it. Today's your day. Say thank you.
For sure. Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so turning to a rougher topic, and you're an expert in this area, and that's why we were so glad to be able to get you today. Let's first talk about the plane. Yesterday, I was kind of speculating on it, and one of our astute callers called in and said, "Hey, look, we're not liberals. We don't deal in false information or information that we're not sure about." But it's looking more and more likely that the plane in Iran, it's a plane taking off to go to the Ukraine, a relatively new aircraft, less than 4 years old. Malfunctions are not as common, not the ones that take a plane out of the sky, very uncommon. That this plane might have been downed as a result of a misfire during the rocket attacks from Iran into Iraq when they were trying to basically show us a little bit of business in retaliation for killing their number 2 guy.
Yes, I mean, it's looking like that happened. The initial reports, obviously, I think I tried to refrain from jumping to conclusions before we really knew anything at the time, because there were like 2 earthquakes inside Iran at the same time, and when these things happen, it's often, as you know, it's often better to wait a little bit just to see how the dust settles, and it really is looking like they shot this plane down, whether on purpose or by mistake. We're not entirely sure. I'm seeing reports now from Iranian media that this is just Western propaganda, and it's kind of concerning, and for a number of reasons. I mean, number one is obviously it's a terrible thing. 180 people died. Those are human beings, and who were civilians who should not have died. But the other thing is, now we're in this age of real information warfare, and the truth of the matter is the faith that we have in the United States and the faith that people have all around the world in our own intelligence systems, our own bureaucracy. I mean, we saw with Russiagate that yes, there's a temptation not to trust these people when they say that the sky is blue, and it's just really unfortunate that that we have an erosion of trust in not only our government but in basically everything at this point. We're so unbelievably jaded, and I'm not saying it's without cause. I'm just saying that it's a pretty terrible situation that we find ourselves in, because there are things that happen in the world that are true and things that happen that are not true, and we should be able to tell the difference. And when we don't trust the people that are supposed to be telling us about what's going on, it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, so David, I agree with you. I don't like to deal in speculation either, but it just was one of those Occam's razor things for me. Were there other things that could have happened? Obviously, a drone could have flown into the plane. Usually, you can lose an engine due to a bird strike, but it doesn't necessarily take the plane down, because these aircraft are capable of doing an emergency landing on one engine only. So if you know just a few things about, current aviation situations and the planes that they're using, then you can kind of rule a few things out right away, and then what else is left, whatever remains becomes what is most likely to have happened. So if there weren't rocket attacks going off on the night that the plane went down, then people wouldn't be thinking that it possibly could have been a rocket attack. But because there were 3 separate rocket attacks, that meant that a lot of people would immediately say, I wonder if it could have been an accidental downing. And so the supporting evidence is the most glaring piece. They're saying that Iran has already said they will not release the black box, because the black box would be the first way they could rule out that it was a rocket that took the plane down. Also, video of the plane going down shows it on fire before it actually hit the ground, which is not consistent with a simple malfunction. So it's just like there's obviously, we don't know for sure, but it is becoming more and more certain. Even the Pentagon is now saying they think it may have been that. The president has said that's his thought process, but no one is certain. All in all, it doesn't look good for Iran to have launched the rocket attacks and not called for a complete, no-fly zone while the rockets were being launched. That would have been the most sensible thing to do.
Sure, exactly. And I mean, I think it's in everybody's interest at this point, in the interest of kind of de-escalation, to sort of nod and wink and pretend that this was a mistake, or some kind of a some kind of a non-deliberate action, but it remains to be seen what's going on. I think you're right. The fact that they're denying access to the black box is significant.
Well, you know what? I have to stop there, because we have a really tight clock here at WMAL, and
Keep going.
Oh, actually, we have a little bit more time. Okay, I'm actually thinking of next hour, I think. This is fill-in host time on live radio, so work with me, people. I actually want to pivot over, not that the plane isn't important, but you have an area of expertise here, which is the Middle East. And I think a lot of people are really concerned that there may be a calming of tensions right now, but that without a deal on the table to prevent them from getting a nuclear weapon and them making announcements about how they're going to go back to their centrifuges and kind of ramping up their production, that we're actually in a more precarious place. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's clear that there's no way that Iran will stop its nuclear program. I think that was clear 5 years ago, and it's clear today. The deal, the JCPOA that Obama negotiated with them was a sham for many reasons, but chiefly among them is it did not give the IAEA or the United States or our allies the ability to inspect any military sites, number one, and number two is it very tightly circumscribed the types of places where inspectors could go. So we were really depending on the Iranians, of all people in the world, to be honest with us about the status of their nuclear program, and that's unbelievably foolish. And I don't think any type of agreement will answer the mail here in terms of preventing the Iranians from getting nuclear weapons. The only thing that we can do, honestly, is sabotage, is projects like Stuxnet, things that are nonviolent, all the way over to maybe, an assassination campaign of nuclear scientists, like the Israelis had been conducting for decades prior to the Iran deal. I think there are many non-military ways to prevent them from obtaining a nuclear weapon, and we need to be aggressively pursuing those, because I don't think they're going to give them up willingly. There's no reason at all that the regime
Trying to get it.
that it's something that they should do.
So in the big scheme of things, the United States has a wonderful kind of negotiating posture now because we have a president who's willing to truly go in and have the negotiations be in our favor. So a longer deal that would truly slow down their ability to get closer to having a functioning nuclear weapon. But the support isn't there in Congress. We actually don't have enough unity within the elected officials to support the president in getting a deal that's that good. We just have another minute left here. Do you feel like it's something that can happen, especially if President Trump is reelected, or do you think we're kind of just bumble along here with no deal?
Well, I'm against any kind of deal that would be a make-believe deal. I'm convinced that there's nothing that we can do in order to convince or bribe the Iranians from halting their nuclear program. So having a deal that that is make-believe, that allows us to sleep at night thinking that everything will be okay, is, in my mind, counterproductive. So I would rather have no deal rather than a bad deal.
All right. Well, I actually would prefer that as well. I think the deal that we had before was awful, and it actually lessened our strength and power in the region, and it didn't give us the ability to inspect sites. And so we need better than that. And if we can't have that, then we should just continue to exert subversive elements and doing what we can to just keep things better than they were under the JCPOA. So thank you so much, David Reaboi. You are a national security and political warfare consultant at Security Studies Group. Thank you for joining us today on WMAL.
You're the best, Stacy. Thanks. Take care.
Thanks so much. Have a great day. So listen, you can go to StacyOnTheRight.com and find out more about me. You can also join the program by calling in at 888-630-WMAL, 888-630-WMAL. I also want to tease a little bit. We have a fun story coming up today about beards. You're not going to want to miss that. I don't actually, my husband doesn't have a beard. I'm not really into beards, but this story is really interesting. Also, border apprehensions down in December, marking 7 months of decline. And we just would, that's great news. I also have some news about anchor baby births being up, 45 million of those, some kind of astronomical number. We'll go over that. And I also want you to know that Bob Woodson and David Hersani are going to join us later in the program, and they're going to be talking about some really interesting topics. Two-parent households, is that a powerhouse for catapulting people into success in America, or is that a myth? And we're obviously going to be covering the impeachment articles possibly being finally sent over, pulled out of Nancy Pelosi's purse from underneath the bottle of hot sauce and transmitted over to the Senate so that a trial can occur and President Trump can either be exonerated or whatever else might happen. He deserves his moment to defend himself. So I'm excited about that and everything else we've got going on. How about a WMAL traffic and weather update from Ed Rodriguez, who's in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center?
No beards at all here. Arlington, northbound 395, we're jammed from the Pentagon to the 3rd
Clear.
Tunnel.
You got your forecast in front of you?
I'm ready.
Capitol Street to the Case Bridge.
Awesome. 40 degrees, Stacy.
Street. Then on
So you'll be saying it's 40 degrees at 321.
Now from GarageDoorRepair.com, the WMAL Weather Channel forecast.
Today, sunny along with a few clouds, high of 41. Tonight, cloudy, low of 33. Friday, mostly cloudy skies, high of 56. Saturday, cloudy, highs near 70. Sunday, showers ending by midday, high of 68. It's 40 degrees at 321.
Looking to get your business off to a fast start in the new year?
Clear. I got to leave the room for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. Business today. Get fast, reliable internet on the nation's largest gig speed network. Automatic internet backup to keep you connected even if the power goes out. And cloud-based security so you can protect all your connected devices against new threats like phishing and malware. Greenlight your business in the new year with a great deal. Get started now with 200 megabit internet and one voice line for $99.99 per month for 2 years when you sign up for paperless billing and auto pay. For a limited time, get 1 free year of Wi-Fi Pro, offering more bandwidth for your employees and customers and more power for every device on your network. Kick your year off the right way with fast, reliable internet for your business. Call 1-800-501-6000 today. Comcast Business, beyond fast.
Comcast Business Security Agent Connection Pro available for additional monthly charge. Offer ends 1/26/20. Wi-Fi Pro available for additional monthly charge after first 12 months. New business customers only 2-year agreement required. Early termination fee applies. Equipment taxes and fees extra. Subject to change. Monthly service charge increases by $10 without paperless billing and auto pay.
Larry O'Connor here, and if you're considering a home remodeling project in 2020, now is the time to start planning, and your only call should be to David and his team.
We can't change spots in this room. We have to go to the little production area, so I had to change something.
Home renovation projects to best fit their current and future lifestyles. Whether it's a redesign of your home's layout to age in place, a new gourmet kitchen for those who love to cook, or a bathroom that'll make you feel like you're living at a spa, Foster Remodeling Solutions can make it easy. David has explained to me that no matter the need, the key to a great home renovation project starts with proper planning. Honestly, you're going to be shocked how simple the entire process can be. Oh, and the craftsmanship is amazing. For a complimentary consultation and 30% off a design agreement, call the company I recommend, Foster Remodeling Solutions, 703-745-1110. That's 703-745-1110 or online at...
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Larry O'Connor Show here on WMAL. I'm Stacy Washington, and I'm so glad to be with you right now. I want to listen to this audio from President Trump. He kind of echoed some of the comments that we just made with our guest, David Reaboi. It's cut 2.
Mr. President, the plane that went down from Iran, what do you think happened to that plane?
Well, I have my suspicions. It was very, I don't want to say that because other people have those suspicions also. It's a tragic thing. When I see that, it's a tragic thing. But somebody could have made a mistake on the other side, could have made a mistake. It was flying, it was flying in, not our system, no, it has nothing to do with us. It was flying in a pretty rough neighborhood, and somebody could have made a mistake. Some people say it was mechanical. I personally don't think that's even a question, personally. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't want to that's up to them. At some point, they'll release the black box. Ideally, they'd get it to Boeing, but if they gave it to France or if they gave it to some other country, that would be okay too. I think, ideally that will be released. I have a feeling that it's just
5 on the cut.
Something very terrible happened, very devastating.
So it's no longer speculation. We definitely have an issue. There was something that happened. So we can always just say, oh, we'll never know because they're never going to give out the black box, but logic tells us that if they felt they had a leg to stand on, they wouldn't be so reticent to hand over the evidence that shows exactly what happened. And they should give that black box directly to Boeing, the manufacturer of the aircraft, because that is what helps people who manufacture planes, companies who manufacture planes, use the black box data to improve their processes, the planes themselves, the way they're put together and constructed. They use that information for safety. That's what it's there for. That's what the black box is there for, to prevent them from having the same bad thing happen again. So Iran should fork it over. But this is just another reason why all of us are sitting here with our mouths agape in utter shock because we're seeing the media defend not just Iran, but the terrorists that we killed and their whole regime. That we've got actual attempts to have us join in with the funeral the other day from media people. They went over and they put the headscarf of oppression on. I think it was Martha Raddatz, and they stand up there and they act as if everything's normal. It's not normal to be forced to cover your hair up in public if you're a woman. It's not normal to have to do that if you're not a member of that society, to have to do it when you're there reporting just because the sight of your hair might drive men into a frenzy. That's not normal. None of it is. And anybody who's trying to normalize it is doing a disservice to us as Americans. You know what? Fight me. You don't like what I said? What are you going to do? You can call. I'll talk to you about it. I'll help you get through. I'll help you work through your feelings. Right here on WMAL. It's 888-630-9625. I'll help you work it through.
Washington's Mall, WMAL, where Washington comes to talk.
For more than 3 decades, I've prided
Welcome back. I'm Stacy Washington, host of Stacy on the Right. You can find out more about me at StacyOnTheRight.com. It's my pleasure to be back with you right here in Washington's Mall. You can join the show by calling us at 888-630-WMAL, 888-630-9625. And right now I want to go to the phones. Richard in Loudoun County, thank you so much for calling into WMAL.
Hey, Stacy, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Great. Larry should hire you full time. He can't pay you enough. You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
But that's not why I called. I'm 100% sure that the overzealous SAM operator in Iran shot down the Ukrainian plane. And they were on alert. Their SAMs are always on alert every time there's some type of threat level there. So, anyway, an overzealous SAM operator made a mistake and pushed the button and took down that plane with a SAM. So I wanted to let you know, but there's a second thing I wanted to mention. Everybody keeps saying that, it was just a bad deal that Obama made and his administration. Well, it wasn't a bad deal for them because they made a whole lot of money in kickbacks. So, you may think I'm just speculation, but if you look close enough, there's some reporting that alludes to that out there. I'm not going to get into the details, but there is definitely, they made a lot of money off of that. You want to know who gave them the money?
Obama.
Soleimani gave Obama the money himself. He actually was involved in the money transfers, and it was a big cover-up. Obviously, they didn't want to show that Obama was working with the terrorists, but anyways, I just wanted to let you know that.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for the call. So we covered the pallets of cash. It's been discussed ad nauseum. I've never, ever heard a Democrat who could justify it or explain why the transfer wasn't done in the traditional fashion from one nation to another via bank transfer. No one can explain why they needed cash in unmarked bills from numerous countries. There were Swiss francs and euros, and it was like, why does it have to be done this way? Why can't they just get a wire transfer? No one will explain. So to me, a lack of explanation indicates something amiss, something awry. It's also kind of stunning to me that the first black president, he was the one who delivered a pallet of cash via an Air Force plane. Just think about the way that looks. And nobody seems to have a problem with it. I mean, I do, but I'm talking about people on the left. So it's interesting. Let's go to Matt in Vienna. Hey, Matt, thanks for calling into the Larry O'Connor Show.
Hi, Stacy. You're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Stacy?
Yeah?
It's such a dangerous place to fly over Iran right now. I don't know if it was a trigger-happy SAM operator or if it came all the way down from the top. There's so much we don't know about this situation that I think that we should probably suspend flights over that country and into that country until we have a clearer resolution of what exactly happened.
So I agree. I would not, if I had to, let's say someone said we need you to fly into Iraq to do some business, I would decline. I would definitely not be one of the people who was traveling over there. Even if it was to visit relatives, I would not be flying in there. So far, and this was as of 3 days ago, there were 3 airlines who had suspended flights into Iraq. And they did that because of the Soleimani drone strike, actually. But on January 3rd, the U.S. State Department told Americans to leave Iraq immediately, and a day later, UK authorities warned their citizens not to travel there, except for essential travel to the Kurdistan region of the country. And Qatar Airways and Fly Dubai both said they're monitoring the situation to determine whether it's safe.
That is so brilliant by President Trump. He's getting the Americans out of Iraq, and first he'll get the citizens, and then he'll get the military out of Iraq, which is what he has been promoting for some time.
Yeah, I hope that's the end result of it. But right now, more troops are headed that way. So thank you so much for the call. I really appreciate it and the encouragement. I have to say, I want to see a targeted drawdown where everybody kind of gets on the same page and we start pulling our resources and troops back because we don't need to be there anymore. And I love the fact that so many people like Tucker Carlson on Fox News and many others have found audio of the president, video of the president saying these things back from 2007 and before. And so this is a part of what he has been advocating for since before he was ever elected, which means it's something he truly believes. So now let's see him act on it. I would love to have him do that. John in Leesburg. Hey, thanks for calling into the Larry O'Connor Show.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I'm 110% behind President Trump taking this scumbag out and how he handled the dreaded aftermath afterward. And I'm sick and tired of the media trying to portray this guy as a martyr that we should, mourn him and stuff. But your comment about like covering the heads of women and stuff over there, I've been to the Middle East several times. It's their sandbox. They only allow us to play in it. We may not agree with their culture and what they're doing, but if you're over there, you follow their rules. I'm sorry, but that's it.
So I'll go ahead and disclose. The reason I have such a problem with it is because I actually experienced it myself. I was stationed over there for 94 days on a TDY, a temporary duty assignment, while I was on active duty in the Air Force. So I am aware that they have their own customs. While I was there, my family couldn't mail me Bibles or religious materials. Every care package that was sent to me by my parents was opened, and they rifled through it, and they took out anything they felt wasn't appropriate for their country. I stayed in the Khobar Towers, the same ones that were bombed the cycle after I went and stayed for my tour. I drove while I was over there because I had a green ID card and command sponsorship from the United States of America. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to drive. While I was driving, I had to have on my military uniform and my hat to signify to anybody that was, that would see me driving that I was an American. And so I understand the whole thing. But while I was there, I didn't have to cover my head because I was on active duty. I had to have my neck, so my collarbones had to be covered, the base of my neck, my wrist bones had to be covered, and my ankles had to be covered. So pants, any shirt with like a circular neck that, came up close to the base of my neck and didn't show my collarbones, and then long sleeve shirts. And I happened to be there during a cooler part of the year, so it wasn't so horrible for me to be dressed like that in a hot country, a country with a hot climate. I understand what you're saying, but I also understand that we make deals on almost everything, and we get them to give us leeway on having our troops there, having our assets there, flying no-fly zones over their nations. We do a whole lot of things to accommodate them. It may be their sandbox, but we've got all the military action going on over there, and I think it's about time we put our foot down and stop bowing down to their backwards ideas about how women should be treated. That's just me. I totally understand what you're saying. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Penny and Burke. Thank you so much for calling into the Larry O'Connor Show.
Hey, thank you.
Sure.
I believe that they purposely shot down, they meaning the Iranians, purposely shot down the Ukrainian jetliner because they were going to frame the United States and say that it was our fault. Because that shoot down happened during a period of time that a reckless United States would have been mercilessly bombing Tehran.
And so are you saying that because we weren't bombing them, we don't get blamed for it, or?
No. What I'm saying is that was their motive, was to try to frame us. They did it on purpose. They were anticipating that we were going to be bombing Tehran.
Oh, okay.
And because Ukraine is so much in the news with the whole controversy and the collusion and the whole thing, it fit right into a plan that they were going to blame the United States for war crimes, for targeting, and that the U.S. Donald Trump was going to be getting even with the Ukrainians.
Okay. Well, I don't know how much of that speculation is dead on. It could be that. Whatever it was, 170 people lost their lives needlessly, and it's just such a shame because all they had to do was ground the flights while they were doing their rocket attacks. It's not like they didn't know they were going to do it. Our government had a 4-hour warning. That's how come none of our troops were killed, because they were moved out of the bases that were going to be bombed. So it's just nonsensical that those people had to die. And as they lift off, they've been listing the people, some of them children, a number of them under the age of 10, a newlywed couple who'd flown there to do the kind of religious ceremony to kind of coincide with their actual lawful wedding in the UK. Amazingly, no Americans were on board. Thank God for that. But all of these other people who died for no reason, it's just unbelievable. Penny, thank you for calling the show.
I mean, we don't think that they actually care.
No, of course not. But it's still something that I guess we as Americans are concerned with, who was there. Anyway, thank you so much for calling the show. I appreciate the call. Anybody else who wants to join in and talk to us about these topics and others, it's 888-630-WMAL, 888-630-9625. We have just, I guess we just care and they don't. It's because we're civilized, and it's not okay to say that. A lot of people don't like when we say things like that. Speaking of the plane story, we have right here over at the Epoch Times, I just got an alert that they've just put a story out about it as well. So do we ever hold people accountable? We don't really hold people accountable in America very much anymore, so I guess this is no different. Now Canada is weighing in. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said the plane that crashed in Iran, killing 176 people, including dozens of Canadian nationals, was likely shot down by an Iranian missile. The Prime Minister told reporters today, we have intelligence from multiple sources, including our allies and our own intelligence. The evidence indicates that the plane was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile. This may well have been unintentional. Wow. So he was asked about whether or not the downing of the plane was an intentional act. He replied that he wasn't ruling it out. He said it's really too early to draw conclusions on this. The families, the families of the victims and all Canadians want answers. I want answers. That means closure, accountability, and justice. We will not rest until we get that. Now, this is an appropriate comment from him, obviously, with having Canadian nationals on the plane. He has to have a much more, he's got to be much more interested in the result of an investigation or in getting an investigation. So it's good to see him actually weigh in on that. But it's just still, it's unthinkable that you'd be going there for whatever reason you were going. It's your business. And then you get shot down by a missile just because Iran was trying to flex over their guy getting droned, which he deserved. He totally deserved to get droned, y'all. All right, we're going to head off into traffic and weather. Ed Rodriguez is in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
We're sponsored by Unbound Auto. In Arlington, northbound 395 slows from the Pentagon to the 3rd Street Tunnel. Southwest freeway delays reaching out from the Navy Yard. Case Bridge. Boy, that delay on 395 has grown. It reaches from the Pentagon to Duke Street. You're going to be slow southbound on I-95 from
40 degrees, Stacy. You're doing the weather.
Harbor to Stafford. Now from GarageDoorRepair.com, the WMAL Weather Channel forecast.
Today, sunny along with a few clouds, high of 41. Tonight, cloudy, low of 33. Friday, mostly cloudy skies, high of 56. Saturday, cloudy, highs near 70. Sunday, showers ending by midday, high of 68. It's 40 degrees.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at
Okay.
I've been
So we're going to play a bunch of spots here.
but you don't have to go.
Hey, yes, it's the Larry O'Connor Show on WMAL. I'm Stacy Washington in for Larry. And I got to say, you're going to love hearing from Dr. Bob Woodson. And he'll be with us after the Dennis Miller Minute. So we just have so many fantastic things coming for you. You just can't leave. You can't change the channel. You can't move at all. You just have to stay right where you are and keep listening. You just have to do it. All right. So right now, I want to quickly just listen to this audio from Representative Doug Collins. He has something to say about the Democrats and their love for terrorists. It's cut 6.
If it wasn't so sad and serious with our country to have Nancy Pelosi, I did not think she could become more hypocritical than she was during impeachment. But guess what? Surprise, surprise. Nancy Pelosi does it again, and her Democrats fall right in line. One, they're in love with terrorists. We see that. They mourn Soleimani more than they mourn our Gold Star families, who are the ones who suffered under Soleimani. That's a problem.
And that's a problem for me, too. Whenever you see a Gold Star mom and you're like Nancy Pelosi, she leaves the Gold Star mom sitting out in the ante area of her office, of her an area out there, like a kind of like a waiting room area, and she just leaves them out there, and she won't even go in her office if they're there waiting to talk to her. They come in with pictures of their kids. They want to talk to her about really anything. If they're her constituents, she should make time for them, but she won't. She also doesn't talk to parents of people who the kids get killed by illegal aliens in drunk driving accidents, kidnappings, rapes, murders, armed assaults. They come to Nancy Pelosi's office to talk to her about the sanctuary cities in California. She leaves them right there. So look, these people don't care about us. And I actually wouldn't be so concerned about it if their actions and inaction weren't so deadly to American citizens. So pivoting over to a little bit of a lighter topic, I'm sure you want to know what's in your meatless burgers because they're becoming really popular now that they've been added to the menus over at Burger King and other places like that. And so there's not just burgers, there's sausages and bacon, and they're sold in all of the markets. Like I was at Whole Foods this morning. I had to go there to get some cheese alternative because I can't give up on cheese while I'm on the Daniel fast and not having real dairy. So I went in there to get that. And I noticed that they had the Beyond Meat burgers and others. And so this story is really interesting because a lot of people are buying those things as a substitute for meat, to do Meatless Monday, to kind of cut back on their red meat consumption. Well, an independent body has now called for more research into the dangers of eating the meat substitutes because they can be high in fat and calories, but more importantly, the products, including quarter pounders made by corn, have almost twice as much salt as a large portion of McDonald's fries. So a lot of Americans may be eating whatever they want and not reducing like their intake of red meat, let's say, but they are watching their sodium intake. So this is super important. I think it's that you're never going to be able to completely avoid processed foods unless you go on like a Whole30 and you just commit to that for the rest of your life. And what fun is that? But it is good to check the sodium content on things and maybe pick the one that has the reduced sodium or lower sodium content if you're going to have a kind of a processed dinner or processed meal. Or you can take the fuller salt alternative and not eat any salt the rest of the day and limit your intake of that to less than one time a week. Not a doctor, don't play one on TV, but certainly every time I've been into my internist for my annual checkup, she warns me about the dangers of high sodium and eating processed food. So it's interesting, and it's kind of big news if you think about it because Beyond Meat is just soup. It's everywhere now. Everyone's eating it, cooking it, using it as a replacement for ground beef and et cetera, for burgers, for everything really. So we'll have to see what will be the end result of it. Will people have more problems because they've had more of this meat alternative that has the higher sodium content? I don't know. All right, we have time for a quick call. Hey, let's go to Mike in Alexandria. Hey, Mike, thanks for calling in to WMAL.
Hi. This Ukrainian airliner incident illustrates the lack of professionalism and discipline on the part of the Iranian military in general. That flight originated in central Iran and was outbound. It was not flying the profile of an enemy invading their company to attack them. Commercial airlines also have a beacon that emits a code that indicates that it's a commercial airliner, and these people want nukes. I don't think it's a good idea.
They demonstrate on a regular basis that they're not ready for that technology. Yet here we are talking about how we're going to keep them from getting that technology. Excellent point there. Thank you so much. I can't stress it enough. As an American, as someone who's served in the military, as someone who supports our military and our actions as a nation, even when I disagree, I don't want our troops killed. I don't want our people put in harm's way. Iran is not the one. They're not ready. They're not ready for prime time. They don't need nukes. They just don't need it. All right, you have Dennis Miller Minute up next. I'm Stacy Washington in for Larry O'Connor here on WMAL.
The Miller Minute.
This assertion. In the article, she said that unless growing up with married parents has the same effect on black children as white youngsters, it is not worthy of endorsing. Otherwise, and this is what she asserts. In other words, it's like saying you found a cure for cancer, but more white people benefit from the cure than blacks, and therefore you're going to discontinue the research rather than try to find positive ways to close the gap, to find out what are the causes of that disparity so that you can fix it. And so she just makes this ridiculous assertion shot with studying. And also there's an assertion that somehow income is related to character. I mean, I looked at the black community during the 1930s and 40s when we were discriminated against as a matter of fact of law, when we had an unemployment rate during the Depression that's 40%, it was 25% in the white community, but our marriage rate was higher than any other group in society, and elderly people could walk safely in the community without fear of being assaulted. So income, so it was our moral values and also the strength of the families that served to shield us in those very difficult times. And so for researchers like her to assert in today's world that somehow it's not worth studying because of the disparity is ridiculous.
So I just want to be clear here. She's saying, because if anyone's trying to kind of make out the article's premise, her premise is that yes, black children fare better than when they have two parents in the household than children who are black whose parents are single, so they only have one parent living with them. But because the rate of prosperity or the benefit of it is not at the same rate as that of white households with two parents, then really it's just a misnomer and we should stop promoting it. Meanwhile, there are opportunities to drill down in the data and see why there is a gap between two-parent households who are black and their wealth attainment and white two-parent households in their wealth attainment. I mean, you can compare, but you have to drill down into the data and go a little bit further than maybe she was willing to go.
Yeah, but going into it, the question is, what is the significance of it? How should it inform our actions? You know, what she is saying that if there are, because of these disparities, therefore, the whole notion of the importance of two-parent households is suspect. How ridiculous is that?
It's pretty ridiculous. It goes against everything that we know and all of the statistics and the data going back decades show that if you have two parents in a household, so basically if you first graduate from high school, you don't have any kids, you're not a single parent, you then get married and then have children, you have less than a 4% chance of being in poverty in America if you just do those three things in that order. So she's trying to dismantle the entire basis for the economic driver of prosperity in America with this one op-ed.
Absolutely, but so I just wonder why. And then she goes into details, almost saying, well, because of there is still disparities even among middle-class people who meet that standard, therefore it should be abandoned. I don't understand her thesis. I don't understand where is she going with this. What are we supposed to do?
Well, I think she's trying to dismantle the idea that two-parent households are better than single-family households or single-parent households, and that would be a furtherance of this idea started by Murphy Brown in Hollywood way back in the 80s, where they tried to normalize single parenthood, and it has largely been effective. We've seen the rate of single parent households go up, and we've also seen the attendant negative aspects going up as well. Like it's not a coincidence that we have a higher single parent household rate, out of wedlock birth rate, and a higher level of children who are not on grade level in reading and math, a higher level of kids being incarcerated and not graduating from high school. Yeah, these things go together.
But it is a phenomena that's it's about 50 years old. Prior to I looked at a study in 1920 to 1940 in the South. The education gap between whites and blacks was 3 years. It was seventh grade for whites and fourth grade rather for blacks. But within less than 20 years, that gap closed within 6 months because of the presence of 5,300 Booker T. Rosenwald schools. In other words, the spending gap the money spent on white schools was 3 times the money spent on black schools. And yet, blacks were able to close that gap. And so we ought to be looking at strengths, both past and present, to identify what are the elements that cause people to achieve against the odds under some of the most repressive and oppressive circumstances. This is the kind of research and knowledge that we need to help us to forge solutions moving forward.
Oh, you're so right. So I wanted to have you on to talk about this because you're an expert in this area, and I knew that you would be able to unpack what she's saying a bunch of things that don't make any sense. And it's not that
no, they don't make it, and they're patronizing and insulting.
Absolutely. So in the big scheme of things, we have better minds such as yours and organizations such as yours that can help us unpack the issues that would help us to change the trajectory of the black family in America. And we should really leave her article and her spurious assertions to themselves. I have to say thank you, Dr. Bob Woodson, founder and president of the Woodson Center. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. It was great to have you on.
And thank you for having me.
All right, we'll talk to you again soon. Well, you know what? I knew he could take this thing down to the ground. It's unbelievable that she would even attempt this, but we can't let her get away with that kind of stuff. We have to call it out whenever we see it. The truth has to be. All right, you know what we're going to do now? It's 4:15, and we need WMAL traffic and weather. Ed Rodriguez in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
I was enjoying that conversation. I'm sitting here thinking about the Moynihan report from 1965 and exactly what was said there.
Absolutely.
Rockville. Remember? Rockville, northbound 270, slow now from Montrose to Falls Road. In Gaithersburg, from 370 to Middlebrook. In Germantown, from Father Hurley Boulevard through the Clarksburg Lane Drop. And in Frederick, from Route 85 to Patrick Street. Here's the good news. Southbound 15 and I-70, both moving at speed with no delay. Now from GarageDoorRepair.com, the WMAL Weather Channel forecast.
Saw some cold.
All right, it's 41 degrees at 4:15.
Ahead for Friday, mid-to-upper 50.
You got it, me? Gotcha. Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Or Saturday. I'm Jeff Eno from the Weather Channel on WMAL.
It's 41 degrees at 4:15.
Stop by your area Jiffy Lube and experience the value of their signature service.
All right, now I'll move that spot to 29.
And even replace wipers and lights. Plus, at
I didn't want to cut them off, and all, so.
without an appointment. JiffyLubeDC.com.
Hey, it's Larry O'Connor.
But we're done with him, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Spend more time with my family. And also, I want to run a half marathon by my birthday in June. And like many of us, I want to get more quality sleep each night. But if you or someone you love struggle with obstructive sleep apnea, it can be hard to get the quiet, restful sleep you need. If you can't use CPAP, there is another way to treat sleep apnea that only requires the click of a button. It's called Inspire. Inspire is a small device placed in a same-day outpatient procedure. Simply click the button on the Inspire remote before you fall asleep. As you sleep, Inspire keeps you breathing normally and sleeping peacefully. No mask, no hose, just sleep. If you can't use CPAP, great sleep awaits at InspireSleep.com. That's InspireSleep.com. Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation. No mask, no hose, just sleep.
Inspire's not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
Looking to get your business off to a fast start in the new year? It's go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Larry O'Connor here on WMAL. I'm Stacy Washington, and it's a pleasure to be with you. That was a fantastic interview. I will put the story that we were discussing so you can read it and in my Twitter feed. It's at Stacy on the Right, and you can check it out for yourself. The reason that this is important is because, well, first of all of our different communities form up the entirety of this nation, and impacts from one community that are really negative tend to ripple out into other communities. It's a little bit of the Hollywood effect. It's the fact that culture is actually on the leading edge, and we can kind of go back and pinpoint changes in culture and how those changes ripple out. You have this whole idea that a family is anything you make it. It's like, 3 puppies that don't have a mom. That's a family. And the kind of breakdown of our traditional moral system is what is driving a lot of the social ills that we see. So when people are talking about inequality, wealth gaps, a lack of educational attainment in certain communities, but they are unwilling to discuss the breakdown of the family, the loss of the traditional, man as the breadwinner, women as caregivers who could also work but not the primary caregiver, the loss of the traditional intact American family as an ideal that everyone's striving towards. When we acknowledge that truth, we can then drill down, as Dr. Woodson said, and find all of these different attendant problems that are solvable. So we don't have anything we're facing that we can't solve. Look at what President Trump did with the opioid epidemic. He was able to come in and just by simple virtue of the fact that he paid attention to it and tried to figure out solutions, he was able to reduce the number of Americans dying from the opioid epidemic. But you can't do that unless you're willing to take an unvarnished, hard look at what's actually happening. And I think that's part of what Dr. Woodson does so well. He's so gifted in the research, analysis, and then truth-telling. That's one of his utter gifts. So you want to join the program and talk about anything we discussed today or whatever you want to talk about. Hey, it's WMAL. I'm the fill-in host. I'm just keeping the seat warm. And you can call into us, 888-630-WMAL, 888-630-9625. We'd be happy to chat with you. I want to get to this quick story here. We've got Twitter planning to limit replies. Now, if you're not on online social media, you might think, okay, what is this? Well, the reason that this is so weird is because the main thing about Twitter is that they're always saying they're not shutting down debate. They're not shutting down conversation. They're not stopping people from communicating with each other. Their algorithm doesn't actually punish conservatives. Well, we know better than that thanks to Project Veritas and the work that they've done and with the button cams and exposing what Twitter executives and workers have said about what they do with conservative content. But this is different because it's a public announcement over on The Verge. So there was an event at CES in Las Vegas, and Twitter's director of project management, Suzanne Z, unveiled some new changes that are coming to the platform this year in 2020. Z says Twitter is adding a new setting for conversation participants right on the compose screen that has 4 options. You can select who sees the content that you put out, so your tweets. Global, group, panel, and statement. Global lets anyone reply to you. Group is for people you follow and mention. Panel is for people you specifically mention in the tweet, so you're inviting those people to converse. And then statement simply allows you to post a tweet and receive no replies. Now, there's no word as of right now whether statement is also automatically formatted to make your tweet, like an iPhone Notes app apology. It's a bit of sarcasm, but maybe it should. So Z says that Twitter is in the process of doing research on the feature and that the mock-ups are going to be a part of an experiment they're going to run in the first quarter. It will take learnings from that experiment and use them to launch the feature globally later in the year. So this is to avoid certain people, certain important people, blue check mark type people, of which I do have a blue check mark, but I also have an algorithm on mine that really limits severely. Like I haven't had a tweet have more than 1,000 likes or retweets in so long, it's unbelievable. You can always tell when the algorithm is on your account. It limits the distribution of your tweets and prevents other people from seeing your content. And then when they are allowed to see it, the first thing you see is a whole lot of people tweeting and going, oh, I didn't know you were still on here. Oh, I haven't seen your tweets in ages. I've been following you for a while. I haven't seen anything from you. So you know that's how you know that the algorithm is real. So there's something called getting ratioed, getting dunked on, that kind of stuff that kind of is where someone tweets something out and then the response to it is negative, and then they have to kind of endure that. These features that they're planning on rolling out would basically enable public figures and people who don't want a negative response to what they're tweeting to be able to put their statements out and people could read them, but they won't be able to reply. Part of the reason people have enjoyed Twitter so much in the past is the level of interactivity that is present there that makes it possible for you to enjoy interacting with people, even a little bit if they don't want to. Like, even if they don't want to interact with you, you're still able to do it. This would shut all of that down. I think it's crazy, actually. I think it's idiotic, but it's their show. We just have to find something else if we want something else. All right, we're going to go to commercial here on WMAL, the Larry O'Connor Show. I'm Stacy Washington. We'll be right back.
Washington's Mall, WMAL, where Washington comes to talk.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the program. You know what? We are going to be chatting with more guests. We actually have David Persani, a senior writer for National Review, joining us in the 5 p.m. hour. But right now, it's my pleasure to welcome Elliot Gazer, an attorney at the D.C.-based law firm Boyd & Gray & Associates. The reason we're having Elliot join us today is because there was an amicus brief filed at the Supreme Court, and one of the organizations I'm affiliated with, National Center for Public Policy Research's Project 21. I'm an advisory member, a co-chair of that, and we decided to sign on to this amicus brief. So, Elliot, thank you for joining the show today, and why did you file the brief?
Thank you so much for having me, Stacy, and it was an honor to be able to represent your organization and so many other African-American pro-life organizations. We thought this was an incredibly important community to be able to speak to the Supreme Court because the struggle for racial equality is not over. The majority of abortions in the state of Louisiana and in many parts of the country, tragically, are experienced in the African-American community. And so we wanted to help give a voice to you and to other members in the pro-life African-American community that want to stand up and be counted on this case.
So when we got together on this, the first thing I thought was, yes, please put my name down, because there's an amazing amount of misinformation surrounding the abortion issue in this country and how it impacts Black women and Black families, how high the rate is for Black families, and specifically in certain areas of the country, like I think Houston, Texas, and New York City, where there are more abortions than there are live births for Black women. This is a Holocaust. It's a silent one because taxpayer funds go to abortion giants like Planned Parenthood, and there's this idea that saying anything against abortion is anti-woman. It's some kind of faux pas. You can't say it. But I'm out here screaming from the rooftops with everything I've got. That's a lie. This is hurting women. And this amicus brief really points to what's going on in Louisiana. So what's happening in Louisiana that makes this so important?
Yeah, the state of Louisiana recognized that the abortions performed in the state were frequently performed by doctors, or not even doctors, who did not have the same training and competence and background checks and medical admitting privileges at local hospitals as doctors who performed other forms of procedures. And so it passed Act 620, which Louisiana adopted in order to just equalize the playing field. No abortion is truly safe, especially because of the tragic loss of an unborn child's life. But people on the pro-choice side regularly say this is just another medical procedure. Well, Louisiana said, if the Supreme Court is going to maintain the Roe versus Wade, Planned Parenthood versus Casey framework, we should treat it like just another medical procedure and ensure that the safety precautions for abortion are just as high as the safety precautions for other forms of surgery in the state. But abortion providers, of course, sued to challenge this law, and they won in the trial court, but then the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals reversed the trial court and upheld the law, and now the Supreme Court is going to consider whether it will, too, uphold the law.
So when the law is upheld, the net result will be an increase in safety for women who are seeking abortions, which actually goes back to what Democrats originally said they wanted for abortion, which was safe, legal, and rare. This would satisfy the safety aspect of that.
That's right. Well, I mean, as I said, no abortion is safe because it involves the death of a child. However, at trial, Louisiana put on testimony from an expert witness who testified that the admitting privilege requirement is the primary way of determining physician competency. And it's such an effective means of ensuring competency that it's used by hospitals, other larger provider organizations, insurance companies. And in the brief, we pointed out that peer-reviewed studies of physicians who performed abortions found that those who hold hospital admitting privileges are significantly more likely to be board certified and to be approved for Medicaid payment than their colleagues without privileges. So this is a baseline, common sense way that states provide competency and credentialing. the other important thing is that if there's a complication in an abortion procedure and the woman needs to be rushed to the hospital, if their doctor does not have admitting privileges, the doctor cannot go with them and has to hand off care to the emergency room, and information can be lost in that process. And that loss of information can be and has been life-threatening to many women, including many Black women who have suffered because they did not have the same credentials for their abortion provider as any other procedure.
So when you talk about the actual loss of life, here in Missouri, we have actually had organizations who've tracked the number of 911 calls to the last operating abortuary, which they actually just stopped doing abortions almost 2 months ago and shifted their operations into Illinois because it's such an abortion-friendly state. Just over the river now that you just travel an additional 13 miles and you can go into Illinois, and there are no reporting requirements. No FOIA requests will be honored for Planned Parenthood. It's just an amazing wall they've put up to try to protect the right to kill an unborn baby. Meanwhile, the reason we were able to be so successful in getting their license suspended is because of their own actions. 911 calls that they refused to explain and attribute to. A lot of areas of the actual facility that weren't up to safety codes that are used by LASIK eye care clinics and outpatient care centers. Just so many things that they refused to do, and we never were given a good reason why. And so abortuaries across the country are shutting down. A third of them have been shut down. And I don't think they've been shut down because they were such clean, classy, well-run centers. They've been shut down because they couldn't meet safety standards that have been implemented by pro-life legislation that's just sweeping the nation, and that makes women more safe. Can you just make a quick comment about that? We have about a minute.
Yeah, abortion procedures in the United States have been subject to less regulation than other.
You'll throw to traffic.
Everyone is afraid of medical malpractice. That's one of the most common concerns cited. And so state legislatures have adopted common sense safety regulations for the medical profession as a whole, but frequently abortion providers have been exempt from that. The last thing I want to say that is an interesting thing about this case is this question of standing. Who has the right to speak in court on behalf of women? Abortion providers have been given a pass and assumed that they have the right to speak on behalf of women, even when they're challenging safety regulations and health regulations that could actually benefit women. And so Louisiana has made the argument, and our brief makes the argument, that there's a conflict of interest, that abortion providers shouldn't be allowed to come to court to sue to evade regulations on behalf of women who would benefit from those regulations.
Oh, that's such a great point. And I have to wrap it up here, but it's been such a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And it is 445 WMAL Traffic and Weather every 10 minutes, first on the 5. Ed Rodriguez is in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
I want to take you back to 66. We're getting a little bit busier right now.
Clear.
Westbound side from the Beltway to 123.
You're done with him, right?
Yes.
The Bull Run Rest area. Southbound delays on 28 in Chantilly now stretch from Route 50 down to 66. We're okay on the toll road westbound, but eastbound, the Dulles connector's jammed up all of a sudden from Idlewood to I-66 and eastbound.
You'll be saying 40 degrees at 4:46.
Repair.com, the WMAL Weather Channel forecast.
Saw some cold temperatures for our Thursday. Much warmer day coming on Friday. We've got the clouds ahead of that.
Yeah, 40 degrees at 4:46.
Head for Friday, mid to upper 50s. Stray shower late Friday night, and we do hold on to a chance for stray
Here we go.
Saturday. I'm Jeff Eno from the Weather Channel on WMAL.
It's 40 degrees at 446.
Dear customer service.
Great, thank you.
Always count on Novak. My power is always on. My payments always go through.
So I'll take that 60 we missed because we obviously it was an important point there, and I'll move it to 529.
Electric costs are reasonable. Some electricity is from alternative sources, and cost reductions are passed along during the year. Thanks.
Novak.
Stacy, you do have one call on here. He doesn't sound hostile, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that I think he's pro-choice. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. I think that's where he's heading.
Tasia, I was reading it thinking
you love as little as one.
Yeah, I wanted to give you a heads up. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Plant treatments from a single tooth to full mouth restoration, all in one office with gentle sedation options.
That's usually a red flag.
Yeah. So.
Solutions to the most challenging cases while keeping you
Cool, I'll keep him on, but he's there. So.
Okay.
for a treatment plan to fit your schedule and financial considerations. No matter